Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Well, first tonight, Renegade MP Sue HICKEY has declared she feels liberated after being told she was unlikely to win Liberal pre-selection for the next state election. The Speaker confirming she will run as an independent in Clark, also taking a swipe at her former party, claiming it's unable to tolerate independent thinkers.
With a stride in her step and a smile on her face, Tasmania's rogue MP enters a new phase of her political career.
I feel like this giant boil has been lanced and all the poison and the pus and the toxicity of the last 3 years is over.
The Speaker now standing on her own after the Premier told her she doesn't have the numbers for pre-selection at the state election. While disappointed, she remains unrepentant.
I have just fought so hard to make the government big, bold, brave and accountable, and I thought I could change things within the structure, but the beast is so powerful you just can't.
There have been times, challenging times, where Ms HICKEY hasn't supported our agenda throughout this period. And obviously that is noted by Liberal members.
That independence seen from day one. In 2018, she took the speakership, shocking her own party.
Is the nomination accepted?
It is.
It extended to crossing the floor on key legislation and threatening independence once before, remaining unafraid to stand her ground.
In fact, I might even just reflect on it for 5 minutes.
Today, she didn't mince words.
I've had some powerful enemies in the party, and there just isn't the capacity in a party for individual thought. It's a very groupthink mentality.
It's pretty clear that Peter Gutwein has been papering over the cracks of division inside the Liberal Party. They're very much focused on themselves, and they are a divided rabble.
She now joins a strong field of independent candidates in Clark. Experts say retaining a seat without the party machine behind her will be difficult.
Ungrouped independents go to the back of the ballot, so she'll miss out on any of the early voting.
The government now facing a period in minority rule, throwing doubt on its agenda.
It does take us into new territory, and that is unfortunate. But at the end of the day, Ms HICKEY will act as she sees fit in the Parliament moving forward.
With Tasmanians scheduled to go to the polls in March next year, her move could strengthen the case for an early election.
I have an open mind in terms of an election, and that Tasmania would have an election when it needs it.
But for now, she's looking to turn history on its head.
No scars. Boil gone, new day.
And to explain more, John Hunt joins us live now. Good evening, John. Now, how does this impact the return of Parliament tomorrow?
Kim, it will be a very interesting day with the government having to work with the Speaker they've effectively sacked. Now, Sue HICKEY is guaranteeing to support the party in confidence and supply, but has also reserved the right to use her casting vote where she sees fit on other issues. It could mean key pieces of legislation may face a tougher route through the Parliament than the Liberals had previously planned. And this week we will see some significant issues being discussed, including the controversial anti-protest laws. Labor and the Greens will also be keeping an eye on the situation, as they look for signs the Premier might be struggling for numbers on key votes. So, Kim, there's bound to be some tension tomorrow when Parliament returns for another week.
Well, the first of 4 community COVID vaccination clinics has opened its doors in Tasmania, with the program getting a boost thanks to the approval of locally produced AstraZeneca. Meanwhile, the federal rollout is experiencing more difficulties, with the state branch of the Pharmacists Guild of Australia claiming the Morrison government isn't getting back to them about their portion of the rollout.
It was all smiles in Kingston this morning as Tasmania entered the next phase.
And today marks a new stage of our rollout, with 1B being delivered to our broader community.
This community vaccination clinic is one of 4 in the state. Others in Launceston as well as New Norfolk and Brighton open this week. It's hoped that an overnight decision by the Therapeutic Goods Administration will shore up supply chains to fuel this phase.
With AstraZeneca coming on earlier than planned, and also overnight having AstraZeneca approved by the TGA for manufacture in Australia, which is a really positive step.
The state government hopes to vaccinate 16,000 people over the next 4 weeks at community clinics like the one being set up here. It's a huge amount of work for what the nursing union is calling an already stretched workforce.
We've got members working overtime and double shifts on a regular basis, and we're also hearing that there are significant difficulties in terms of recruiting to positions.
The ANMF is calling for nurses to be managed properly over the rollout period to ensure that an appropriate level of care can be maintained in hospitals.
Look, I suspect that given the challenges at the Royal Hobart Hospital, other people from outside of the THS working in the private sector may be given preference to try and mitigate the risk of exacerbating that staffing situation.
GPs also began their rollout today. Last week, they experienced communication difficulties with the federal government. This week, it's pharmacies.
At the moment, we're a little bit concerned that initially we were told that our expressions of interests would be answered last Friday. It looks like that's been delayed. But at this stage, we think that potentially Part 2A that we were going to be part of may be delayed till after May.
The federal government says that it's taking more time to work through the rollout's planning, with no delays to the next phase. Yet. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The Tasmanian agricultural industry is mourning the loss of prominent farmer Michael Chilvers, who died in a climbing accident on Friday. Mr Chilvers served as Tasmanian President of the Australia-China Business Council, Director on the Board of Tasmanian Irrigation, as well as being a previous recipient of the Nuffield Scholarship. The 49-year-old was climbing Mount Geryon near Cradle Mountain in a party of 4 people when he fell from a significant height. And parts of Tasmania can expect some wet weather this week too. The Bureau of Meteorology has issued a statement saying it expects the eastern half of Tasmania to be lashed with 60 to 100 millimetres of rain on Wednesday. The low pressure system is also expected to bring damaging easterly winds of around 100 kilometres an hour. The Tasmanian midwife has set the ambitious goal of changing the way women are cared for after giving birth. Fundraising efforts were launched today to build a Hobart birth house. The initiative would provide facilities for women throughout and after pregnancy, focusing on forming a close bond with their midwife. It would also include a library, education space and consultation rooms for specialists.
A lot of the time women feel like they're not in control of their birth and that they things have to just happen to them.
Women need to feel more involved in their pregnancy, labour and birth care and their postnatal care as well. And when they feel more involved, they feel like they are at the centre of the decision making.
It's hoped the birth house will be up and running by next year. Thousands have poured into Lake Barrington for the National Rowing Championships, the first time Tasmania has hosted the event in more than a decade. 1,500 athletes will compete on the water in the last major competition before the Tokyo Olympic Games.
For the first time since 2009, Lake Barrington splashes onto rowing's national stage.
With the mainland copping a battering with the weather, we're here in the promised land and we're all having a ball.
For the next week, 300 Tasmanians will be among 1,600 of the sport's elite calling this water home. Just as many boats are parked on the shore.
It's a regatta that goes from school-age competitors all the way through to our Olympic and Paralympic athletes.
One of those bound for Tokyo is 5-time world champion and back-to-back Paralympic silver medalist ERIK, driven to conquer the one crown that has so far eluded him, a gold medal. Today marks the start of that journey.
I can count the amount of races I've had since 2019 World Champs, basically on one hand.
Like most sports, rowing succumbed to COVID-19's claw. Last year's championships were cancelled, so too elite local competitions, and now rowers are unable to attend fierce European regattas in the lead up to the July Games, making this week extremely important.
We're treating this regatta like the European champs, which will be happening in 3 weeks.
This is probably the last really big competition where we're racing other people outside, the Olympic squad.
Just as valuable is the projected windfall for the tourist-starved region surrounding Lake Barrington, ready to cash in on thousands of interstate visitors.
I'm staying in Sheffield, our board is staying in Devonport, I know there are people staying in Launceston, so the economic footprint here is actually pretty significant.
Garth, BURLEY, 7 Tasmania News.
In just 10 days, a crew of volunteers has removed 90,000 items of rubbish from Tasmania's most remote coastlines. The Clean team finding everything from chairs to ropes and microplastics in areas almost never touched by humans.
It's wilderness so remote that most people will never set foot here. But nestled amongst these dunes sits tons of rubbish.
It's pretty devastating when you arrive on these beaches. I mean, these are beautiful, wild, remote beaches, and you're confronted with a, toxic wave of rubbish.
10 days ago, a Clean team left for its annual voyage, 21 volunteers venturing by boat into Tasmania's far south to remove waste. Today, they return to Southport, bringing with them more than 90,000 pieces of rubbish.
A lot of microplastics, we're still seeing those in large numbers. I reckon they probably make up, numbers-wise, over sort of 60% of the rubbish.
We're feeling pretty exhausted, but really, really happy that we managed to remove so much plastic from these beautiful ecosystems.
Unloading the boat, there were chairs, bottles, buoys, ropes and everything in between. A devastating sight for the environmentalists, but in good news, their efforts seem to be paying off, with some areas cleaner than previous years.
There was noticeable amount, decreased amount of rubbish. It was quite surprising. Normally we'd spend up to 6 or 8 hours on that beach, and we only had to spend 3 hours on the beach, so that was absolutely fantastic.
A reminder for everyone to do their bit to keep our precious wilderness pristine.
Every little thing that we do, has an impact somewhere, so we've got to be really conscious of the things that we do and how we care for the environment around us, and then the things that we buy and what we do with our own waste.
Michelle Wisbey, 7 Tasmania News.
Now, if you bought a Tatsono ticket in Burnie last week, it's time to double check it. A Division 1 winning ticket in Saturday night's draw was sold at the Burnie News Agency, but as it's unregistered, they can't contact the winner. It's the second time in 3 weeks a Division 1 winning ticket has been sold in the area. Young minds have been put to the test at the University of Tasmania's annual Science and Engineering Challenge. Building a bridge able to support a cart carrying gold ingots was one of the day's tasks, along with creating cost-effective bionic arms and model water turbines. The program hopes to encourage young students and encourage them to study in STEM-related fields.
The Tasmanian Tigers have coasted to their first win of the Sheffield Shield season after a crushing 298-run win over reigning champions New South Wales. Chasing a mammoth target nudging 500, the Blues stumbled in response and were bowled out for 194. Pace spearhead Peter Siddle was the best in a combined bowling assault, taking 3 wickets. Fellow quick Jackson Bird was named man of the match after his 7 for 18 rout in the first innings. Glenorchy coach James Sherman has called on his side to make better decisions in round 2 of the Premier League soccer season after a 1-0 victory over Olympia on the weekend. The Knights head says although the victory was positive, it wasn't polished.
I thought we got to the front third a lot of the time on Saturday, but the decision making was poor. So that can either be down to the individual player or the players around them. We need to make sure that we think with the one brain.
Glenorchy will take on Clarence this weekend.
Good evening. Monday's maximum 27 at Strawn, Hobart and Launceston 25, Burnie 20 and Devonport 23. Ouse Grove, Campania and Cressy all 26. Friendly Beaches 23 today, Smithton, St Helens and Flinders Island 22, King Island and Low Head 21. Low level cloud over the state, mainly about the north. The waters off the southwest coast cloud free. Easy to spot the cloud with the trough off the New South Wales coast, affecting a large portion of the southeast. Thunderstorms over western Queensland, afternoon convective cloud elsewhere over the mainland. A cold front moving there towards the Bight as well. Another low quickly develops over central New South Wales tomorrow. The cold front over the Bight is preceded by a trough, while another trough links the Kimberley with New South Wales. Winds tending southeast-northeasterly at 10 to 20 knots, but up to 30 knots over northern waters and more from an easterly direction later. Strong wind warning has been issued for waters between Sandy Cape and St Helens Point. And we have a road weather alert for slippery roads for parts of the West, Central Plateau, Midlands, East Coast, Derwent Valley and the southeast. Hobart, Tuesday, 23 with showers developing later. Partly cloudy on Bruny, Adventure Bay 21, 19 the top for Tarraleah. Launceston expecting a high of 22 with a shower or two. Devonport showery, 21 the maximum. Bridport 21 as well. Burnie a high of 20 with showers. Showers also for Strawn 22 and Marrawar 20 degrees. St Helens tomorrow showers and 21. Same for Swansea. Whitemark showers increasing 22 the maximum. UV maxing out at 6 and high tomorrow. On Wednesday, rain, possibly heavy over the east with fresh to strong east to southeast winds. Showers through Thursday, contracting to the west and far south in the evening. And on Friday, mainly fine apart from a shower over the west and far south of the state. 26 in Perth. Partly cloudy for Adelaide, rain at times in Melbourne. Heavy rain for Canberra and Sydney, and rain as well for Brisbane.
Fine at the moment, 20 in Hobart, 19 right now in Launceston and Devonport. Lance Franklin back for the Swans, Kim. He's going to find it very hard to find his way back into that winning side. A bit like when Tom Johnson comes back from holidays next week and wants to read the sport.
We love Tom, we love Garth, we love everyone on our team. There's no I in Team Murph. That is your news for now. There'll be news, sport and weather updates later this evening. Thanks for joining us. For now, good night.